Right. So today we're going to do a deep dive into the Great Gatsby. We're going to try to take you through the story and the characters and kind of this world that Fitzgerald created, all within a short amount of time.
Right. A nice little shortcut for everybody.
A shortcut, yeah, exactly. To understand this American classic. And so we've got our sources here. We've got excerpts from your notes and Spark Notes, and let's see.
An online summary of the book as well.
An online book summary. So I think we've got everything we need to
definitely
to get you up to speed on Gatsby.
Are you ready to head back to the Roaring Twenties?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So Chapter 1, where do we meet our narrator, Nick Carraway?
Okay, so we meet Nick as he is reflecting on his time in West Egg, Long Island, and he's this young guy from the Midwest who has moved east to work in the bond business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he rents this small house right next door to Jay Gatsby, this mysterious millionaire who's known for throwing these extravagant parties.
Okay, so right away, we get this contrast.
Yeah.
We get Nick, who is kind of this grounded observer.
Exactly.
And then next door, we have Gatsby, who is this enigmatic party host.
Exactly. And it's through Nick that we are then introduced to the Buchanans.
Okay.
So Tom and Daisy and their friend Jordan Baker, and they live across the Sound in the more established Old Money East Egg.
Okay, so Chapter 1, we're kind of setting the stage, introducing the key players.
And setting the scene, yeah.
What about Chapter 2?
Okay, so Chapter 2 takes us outside the glitz of West Egg to the Valley of Ashes, this kind of desolate industrial area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this is where we meet Tom's mistress, Myrtle Wilson, and her husband, George, who runs a gas station.
I mean, the Valley of Ashes, it's just such striking imagery. I mean, it's such a stark contrast to the wealth of the eggs.
Absolutely. It represents the moral and social decay that's hidden beneath the surface of this seemingly glamorous society. And it's actually in this chapter that we see Tom's brutal and arrogant nature.
Okay. Yeah. Chapter 3.
Okay.
This is the famous party scene, right?
Yes. This is where Nick finally attends one of Gatsby's legendary parties. It's a spectacle of extravagance just filled with strangers and music and flowing champagne.
Wow.
But Gatsby himself remains an enigma. He's aloof and mysterious.
Yeah, and he doesn't even really meet Gatsby at his own party.
I know, isn't that interesting?
It just adds to the mystery surrounding this guy.
It really does, yeah. And then Nick ends up having this kind of strange encounter with a man in Gatsby's library who turns out to be Owl Eyes.
Okay.
And Owl Eyes is fascinated by the fact that Gatsby's books are real.
Like a glimpse behind the facade a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. What's he hiding?
Yeah, so what does Chapter 4 reveal about Gatsby?
Okay, so Chapter 4 is when Gatsby starts to reveal himself to Nick. He shares this fabricated story about his past. He claims to be from this wealthy Midwestern family, educated at Oxford, and a war hero.
Wow.
But Nick is skeptical.
Right. So he's clearly trying to project a certain image, but there are cracks in his story.
Yeah.
And then we meet Meyer Wolfsheim.
Yes. Gatsby introduces Nick to Wolfsheim, this shady businessman with connections to organized crime.
Right.
So this is our first real clue about the true source of Gatsby's wealth.
Okay, so things are starting to unravel a bit.
Yeah.
What happens in Chapter 5?
Okay, Chapter 5 is pivotal.
Okay.
Gatsby arranges a reunion with Daisy at Nick's house, hoping to rekindle their romance after 5 years apart.
Wow.
And it is an awkward and emotionally charged encounter.
I bet you can really feel the tension there.
Oh, absolutely. The weight of their shared history.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And Gatsby is incredibly nervous, almost clumsy in his attempts to impress Daisy.
Oh, really?
He shows her his mansion, his possessions, almost desperately trying to prove his worth.
And that's where we get that famous scene with the shirts, right? Where he's just throwing them all over the place.
Yeah, he just throws them all over the room. It's a symbolic gesture, right? Showing Gatsby's immense wealth and his desire to overwhelm Daisy with material possessions. But it also reveals his vulnerability, his desperation to win her back.
Okay, so Chapter 5 is the turning point.
Right.
Gatsby and Daisy are back in each other's lives.
Exactly.
What about Chapter 6?
Okay, so Chapter 6 delves into Gatsby's past, revealing the truth about his origins.
Yeah.
And we learn that his real name is James Gatz.
Oh, wow.
And that he came from this poor farming family in North Dakota.
So the carefully constructed facade starts to crumble.
Right.
Yeah.
We see how Gatsby met Daisy when he was a young soldier and how he fell in love with her wealth and the world that she represented.
Wow.
And it explains his obsession with recreating himself, with achieving the status that he believes will make him worthy of her.
Right.
Yeah.
So Gatsby's a self-made man, but he built himself on a lie.
Right.
So what does that say about the American dream, this idea that anyone can achieve success?
That's a key question that Fitzgerald is exploring. Gatsby's story shows how the pursuit of the American dream can be, kind of twisted by ambition and a desire for social status.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on to Chapter 7.
Okay.
This is where things really start to heat up.
Yeah. Chapter 7 is a pivotal one filled with tension and conflict, and it takes place during this, scorching summer day, mirroring the emotional heat that's building between the characters.
Okay.
So Gatsby's obsession with Daisy intensifies, and Tom becomes increasingly suspicious.
This is where the love triangle really explodes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have the tense luncheon at the Buchanan's house, where Daisy's discomfort is palpable.
Okay.
And then the group ends up in this sweltering hotel room in New York City where the truth about Gatsby's past and his relationship with Daisy is finally exposed.
Oh, wow. It's such a dramatic confrontation.
That it is.
I mean, Tom is just tearing down Gatsby's facade.
Yeah.
Revealing his illegal business dealings.
Yeah.
Highlighting the class difference between them.
Right. And Daisy, caught in the middle of this battle between Gatsby and Tom, ultimately chooses the security and social standing that Tom represents.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to see Gatsby's dreams just completely crumble before him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the tragic car accident.
Yes. The climax of the chapter is the car accident where Daisy, driving Gatsby's car, hits and kills Myrtle Wilson.
Oh, wow.
And this is a turning point in the story setting in motion, a chain of events that will lead to Gatsby's downfall.
So Chapter 7 ends on a cliffhanger.
It does.
What happens next?
Okay, in Chapter 8, we kind of delve into the aftermath of the accident.
Okay.
Gatsby, consumed by guilt and his desire to protect Daisy, takes the blame for the accident.
Okay.
Even though he wasn't driving.
It's a selfless act, but also incredibly foolish.
It is.
I mean, he's so blinded by love that he doesn't see the danger.
Exactly. And Nick, who has been increasingly disillusioned with Gatsby's world, tries to warn him.
Yeah.
But Gatsby refuses to listen.
He's clinging to that hope that Daisy will leave Tom and come to him.
Right, but it's a futile hope.
Yeah.
And in this chapter, we also get a glimpse into Gatsby's past, his early encounters with Daisy and the moment he decided to dedicate his life to winning her back.
Wow.
It further emphasizes the extent to which Gatsby has built his entire identity around this idealized vision of Daisy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Then in Chapter 9, the tragedy unfolds.
Chapter 9 is the final chapter, and it brings a sense of closure, but also profound sadness. Gatsby is shot and killed by George Wilson, who mistakenly believes that Gatsby is responsible for Myrtle's death.
It's such a senseless act of violence.
That is.
Fueled by grief, misunderstanding, and Tom's manipulation.
Absolutely. And it's made even more tragic by the fact that Gatsby dies alone, abandoned by all the people who flock to his parties with only Nick there to mourn him.
Yeah, the emptiness of Gatsby's life is underscored by the sparse attendance at his funeral.
Right.
Even Nick, who initially admired Gatsby, leaves West Egg disillusioned with the world of wealth and excess he has witnessed.
Yeah, the ending of the book is both bleak and thought-provoking. It raises questions about the nature of the American dream, the allure and danger of wealth, and the consequences of pursuing illusions.
Yeah, it really is. It really makes you think about some of the themes that Fitzgerald is exploring.
It does.
So we went through the whole story. What are some of the key takeaways from The Great Gatsby?
Well, I think one of the biggest is this idea of the American dream and how it can be both alluring and ultimately destructive. Gatsby is so driven by his desire for wealth and status, believing they'll bring him happiness and love, but ultimately his pursuit leads to tragedy.
Yeah, and it's not just about Gatsby's personal tragedy. I mean, the book really critiques this entire social scene of the Roaring Twenties.
Absolutely. Fitzgerald shows us the shallowness and recklessness of the wealthy elite, their carelessness and lack of accountability.
Yeah.
Characters like Tom and Daisy represent the moral decay beneath the surface of this glamorous world.
Yeah, that contrast between the glittering facade and then that emptiness beneath it.
Right.
It's so central to the book.
Yeah, exactly. And it connects back to Gatsby's character. He creates this elaborate persona throwing these lavish parties, but it's all a facade to mask his humble beginnings and his obsession with Daisy.
Right. It makes you wonder, is Gatsby truly great, as the title suggests?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he has this grand vision, this unwavering belief in love and the possibility of recreating the past. But he's also deeply flawed. blinded by his desire for Daisy and ultimately unable to escape the consequences of his choices.
So maybe greatness isn't just about wealth or achievement, but about something more meaningful, something that Gatsby never quite grasps.
Exactly, and I think that's what makes The Great Gatsby so enduring. It
Yeah.
forces us to question our own values, our aspirations, and what we're willing to sacrifice in pursuit of our dreams.
It's a cautionary tale, for sure.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with a lot to think about long after we finish reading.
Definitely. I think the final thought I'll leave you with is this Gatsby story shows us the danger of clinging to the past, of fixating on an idealized vision that can never truly be fulfilled.
It's a reminder to live in the present, to appreciate what we have, and to be mindful of the choices we make in pursuit of our own dreams.
Well said.
And that's our deep dive into The Great Gatsby.
That's it.
We hope you enjoyed this journey through the world of F. Scott Fitzgerald's masterpiece.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Until next time, happy reading.